Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So, it's Thursday night. That means an episode of What's New. So, this particular group, if you want to call them that, The Tangent, was something I had actually done about a week or two ago, but I decided to release a different video last week and do this one for this week. So the album is called To Follow Polaris. The group, of course, is The Tangent. It's a little bit of a misnomer to call it a group, since it's basically Andy Tillison who plays everything on this album, and he plays it all very well and also does all the vocals as well. So it's a one-man band, but a very good album, I think. Released May the 10th, 2024. About 75 minutes in length, so fairly lengthy album, well beyond what I would be comfortable with listening to, so I had to do it in a couple stages. And the label is on the Inside Out label, and I assume that Andy did all the production himself, since I couldn't find anything to indicate whether he did or not. So there are 5 tracks on the album. 2 of them in the 8-minute range, 1 in the 11-minute range, 1 in the 5-minute range, and then the last one, or the fourth song, in the 21-minute range. The first song, well, first we'll talk about the album in general. So I found this to be mostly up-tempo, kind of upbeat, a lot of kind of modern themes in the lyrics, I think. Lots of really good bass, drums, and guitar parts throughout the album. I think the keyboard's a little bit more dominating than the other instruments, definitely with the solos. The use of the keyboard as a solo instrument, which has almost a guitar sound to it, so that's probably an electric keyboard. I would assume that's the sound that you usually get from when they call it that. Excellent album. 5 strong tracks. I didn't really dislike any. The middle song of the 5 I cared less for than the other ones, but all pretty strong, pretty up-tempo most of the case. Some melodic stuff, some quieter stuff, some more toned-down stuff, but definitely lots of progressive sounds going on here on this album. So we're going to talk first about the first track, which is The North Sky. Now this one also had a edited version for a single as well. I actually heard both. The longer form I actually prefer. It's got a heavy up-tempoed song. Sorry, you're gonna have to cough. Got a frog in the throat here. I find the vocals very bright, on a very bright side. He's got a very mild voice. It's not overbearing or screechy or high pitched or anything like that. Very mild. Nice voice for the songs. Bass and guitar driven this particular track. Keyboards are used as background, but the solo is quite strong on this particular track as well. There's almost a yes sound to this track. It's got a yesy feel to it. I wouldn't say it. It sounds more like the stuff you would get off Fly From Here and later, like the more later yes stuff than you would get from the earlier stuff. And I think this pretty impressive for one guy doing all of these parts and doing them all very well. The next song is called A Like in the Darkness. So it starts out with a more subdued track. Feels a little bit like I can't think of the word. It's a little less aggressive than the other song, I guess, maybe might be a good way to put it. Vocals are clear but not dominating, so you can understand clearly what he's saying. You can hear his voice. It's very clear. It's just not as forward as you might expect with somebody with such a clear sounding voice. Keyboard solo was very strong on this track. I liked it quite a bit. They get this kind of a second quiet part, and it sounds it stays that way for a bit, and then there's a little bit of a piano part to it, which I liked as well. I tend to be a little bit more on the piano liking thing. And you got a nice acoustic guitar bit, which kind of gives a feeling of a a flute almost. There's almost a flute feel here. I'm not sure where that's coming from. It could be, I didn't see a flute being played in the video, so I'm assuming that it's a keyboard sound that has been turned to sound like a flute. Yeah, and that's quite common as well. That song was better, I think, than the opening track, but not by much, so another good song. The next song is the one that I kind of didn't care much for. I didn't hate it. I just didn't think it was as good a track as the previous two. So it's a bit more bluesy, I think, a little bit more rhythmic. The vocals more moderate and not as forward. So almost background-ish, I guess. Clear sound. There's the use of a mellotron. I feel like it's a mellotron, really good. Give it that kind of spacey feel. The electric keyboards give that guitar feel, that kind of guitar solo feel, right? But not a bad track. The next track is the longest on the album, 21 minutes. Actually, it didn't seem like 21 minutes, but it went by fairly quickly. A lot of synthesizer and noises to open, kind of giving it an effect to get going. A bit of a narrative. I found this to be more of a narrative song. He was almost like telling a story while he was singing. It's lengthy, cosmic, and bluesy at the same time. Lots of heavy bass at times. I did like this track quite a bit. In fact, if I had to choose a song to be my favorite on the album, it would probably have been this one. It's Anachronism is what the name of the song is. The last track, which is the shortest track of the five, about almost 6 minutes, it's called The Single. The single from a reopened time capsule, so I'm guessing he's singing of a different time period or trying to. Vocal upstaging, very yes sounding, and that dog doesn't sound very much like a yes, but the bass and drums are more up front in this particular track. Vocals are more mainstream, meaning that they're not too high or too low, they're just kind of neutral sounding. A bit of a political song, I think. There's some references to some of the stuff that we see in the world today. And it has some real good catchy hooks and riffs on this song. So overall, this is a pretty strong track too, one of my favorites on the album. I think the cover has that feeling of an apocalyptic feel to it, which is demonstrated by that kind of if you've got this nature growing and then you've got some old buildings, or not buildings, but structures in the background that are giving it that apocalyptic feel. Overall, I found this album to be quite good. I liked it. I didn't think it was, it didn't have that 80-ish sound or that 70-ish sound to it. It was more up-to-date type of progressive rock, where they are more dominated by the progressive keyboard sounds and synthesizers and clarity production stuff. So there's no murkiness to the album at all. So an excellent album. I think it's an album that I would like to listen to a little bit more. I've gone through it twice now. Liked it. Glad that I decided to do it. They're new to me, the Tangent. Now I know that they've had other albums, so I will be kind of exploring their discography. Maybe once I get moved in, I'll go back to my listening, picking one particular group and listening to their entire discography, and then deciding if maybe they might be somebody I might want to do on exploring the progverse, at least with the progressive stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of What's New. We'll be back next week with another episode of What's New. In the meantime, please don't forget to hit the like and subscription. These things all go towards helping me eventually get better stuff, get more CDs, talk more about stuff, and improve my equipment so that we have a very clear, wonderful sound here. So anyways, if you have anything else to say, and you can put that in the comments section below, it's much appreciated. I generally answer just about everything, unless it's really a personal attack, then I can't see the point, so I don't bother. and hit the notification bell, and we will see you next week. So take care and goodbye.